Welcome to the Upshift podcast, where changemakers meet and commune and find out how each other is doing their part in changing the world. And today's guest is Emily McSherry, who is founder and CEO of Advize, which is a career learning and exploration tool for students. She's really changing the way our students learn about careers. Welcome, Emily.
Thanks. Good to be here.
We were just talking beforehand about some statistics. And, I'm sure people out there, I know we don't know what the statistics are about how students find out about careers, how they can make choices. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, give us a foundation of how students normally learn about these things or how there's a deficit of learning.
Yeah. If I explained what a lot of students go through, and I guess I'll start at maybe high school, right? Before applying to college. Students today are tasked with this big ask when they're not even 18 years old to put a profile together, select a university, select why they want to go to that university and what they want to study, right? And a lot of the time they're making those decisions based on very limited information. Like thankfully we have ChatGPT now, which is probably giving them some better answers than they had before. But they don't really know what those decisions and how they connect to careers, right? So kind of from the get-go, people are getting into a funnel or into a life or into a story with lack of confidence, I would say. And I see parents all the time extremely worried, helping their kids with this process because of how stressed out they are.
Yeah.
And that's assuming people have parents, right? And have parents that went into the workforce. And so when students get into school, I do work with some universities where they actually do have required career classes. And I think that is like an amazing strategy that I wish every university had. But for the majority, and I don't know the percentage, I'd say probably 90% do not have this or maybe more. And so students get in, they declare their major, they start going to class and start thinking about, okay, I need to pass my classes.
Yeah.
And maybe they hear about the Career Center, or maybe they sit in an orientation with lots of resources kind of being shoved down their throat at once, on top of already moving into a dorm, signing up for classes the first time, learning how to use email, not being at home, generally speaking. So they're kind of getting this flood of information, including you should go to the Career Center, talk to your career coach. And they're like, I'm not there yet. Like, I'm just a freshman.
Right.
And so then they kind of get into classes, and then all of a sudden, like maybe some are go-getters and go to the career centers, go to the career fair, talk to people, get internships. But the majority get a little bit later and they're like, oh crap, I need a job now. I mean, I kind of thought just getting a degree would get me that job. So then we have a bit of a scramble situation. We're applying to any company that we recognize the logo for. We're like, oh, Google. That's a good one. I want to work at Google. I really want to work at Nike. I really want to work at Microsoft. Without a clue of what jobs there really are, what people really do, what companies really make money for, why people hire people, what a job function is. Like, this is not educated in college, high school, anywhere
Mhm.
at all. The one tool, besides like working one-on-one with a career coach, possibly, or going online, that students are supposed to be doing at this time, right? If you go to any career center website, pretty much any school in the country, I don't care if it's community college, a business school, whatever, it will say the importance of networking and informational interviews, or talking to people live and asking them questions about what they do. And that is so valuable. The problem is 75% of students are not doing at even one of these in college for various reasons. So all of this valuable opportunity is being left on the table, and it's not really students' fault, right? They are overwhelmed. They don't have a lot of time. They don't have the skill and necessarily confidence to know how to reach out to a person on LinkedIn or even an alum and figure out how to get this random person to Google to get coffee with me. And what the heck am I supposed to ask them? I don't even know what their job title means. I just know I'm supposed to talk to them and maybe it'll get me a job someday. So that's a long-winded answer of how a lot of this is going. And then students kind of get into whatever job they can with limited research. And then a bit down the road, they learn a whole lot about stuff that they should have or could have learned a lot earlier if they had the right tools. And maybe their whole life would be different. Or maybe they go spend $200,000 on an MBA like I did
Yeah.
and a lot of
Yep.
my friends to pivot, right? So I just think it's such a critical time. And the resources out there, it's very complicated, and I feel like people would make different decisions if they had more of this information earlier. And the almost 1,000 people we've interviewed, we've asked a majority of them, how would this tool have helped you when you were younger? Would you be in the same career? And almost everyone says, oh no, I would not be.
Right.
I would have changed my mind. So it's a pretty big deal, and why I'm so passionate about it.
Sounds like you're talking to two sets of people here, the students that actually have to go through this and the parents. And then it sounds like you're addressing with these two sets of people time and money. It
Yes.
costs time, okay, for you to go and do these things. Money wasted going in the wrong direction. And that being classes, that being time in classes is something you think you love. Personal story, I was headed toward medical school and I finally decided I couldn't do 8 years more of school before I wanted to get out there and do something. But at least I made that decision. But, looking back now, I was like, I would have loved to have been a doctor, but I had no guidance. We had a career center. And I'm thinking that, the alumni connections, that's a really good one for people to try to ascertain. But you, Emily, have something that's different, that's very accessible, saving time and money for parents and you students. So tell us about that.
Yes. So, what we do on our platform, Advise, is when we were in business school, this is something I started in business school at UCLA Anderson as part of my capstone, which was great. We pulled from the best coffee chat or informational interview guides we could find at schools. Basically, these resource pages telling their students, go do this, go do this. Or when a student comes in and says, hey, this is what I want to do, they say, great, go do this thing. We took all of that knowledge and consolidated it into a framework of questions that every student would benefit, or actually every person would benefit hearing from, just to get the core idea about what someone did. And so we developed something called the Advice 13. So the Advice 13 is a set of these questions that we tested with hundreds of different types of students during our business school program to make sure we're really covering everything, kind of like the bones, the bare bones, right? I wouldn't say bare bones, the foundation. So we ask questions like, walk me through your career path. What's a day in the life look like? What do you like about your job? What do you find challenging? What do you wish you knew about this industry? What's challenging about this industry? And a couple other basic questions like that. And then we break every interview into those 13 questions in short clips. So, what could take a student, we found, over 25 hours to just have 10 conversations to get some of this information, can now be done in less than 10 minutes on our website before they go talk to people. And they can go talk to people with more confidence after hearing a couple doctors talk about their day, a couple consultants talk about their day. And also, they can mimic the questions that they hear from the videos to give them more of that confidence to go have these conversations. And one other important thing I want to talk about is when starting a business and thinking about the vision and kind of your foundational values or your why. A big one for me was I always want to do something that was both profitable, but also good for people or some other impactful part. So almost like a social enterprise, but for profit. And so a big decision with that was the people who need this information the most can't pay for it.
Hmm. Yep.
So I don't want to block it off, right? So basically, there's a free version, almost like a YouTube, of Advise for anyone to access. So any parent, any student, any professional can go on there today and watch and experience the platform for free to fulfill that mission.
How in the world do you do that? I mean, for free. That's fabulous. And we're going to tell people how to get to that. But you say you're a for profit. So do you have investors? I mean, I don't want to get too private, but this is really wonderful what you're offering, like you said, to people who cannot afford this, who need it the most.
Yeah. And we had to get a little creative, which is taking us in some, I would say, good directions. But there was a couple things we were thinking about, right? You can be a B2C model, right? Like a masterclass, charge a monthly subscription, an annual subscription. And we thought about that. And that still comes up when I talk to people. They say, why aren't you B2C? And I think one is the reason I was just talking about. And the other is we're not a TikTok. We're not a Netflix where people are coming back and back and back all the time for entertainment. When people come to us, they get what they need quickly, learn some things effectively, make some decisions fast, which doesn't really support a paid subscription necessarily month
Right.
and month and
That
month
makes
over.
sense.
So that was one of the big decisions there. And then the second one, just answering the business model question, is we thought to ourselves, okay, who would find the most value in this? And our head went to universities, right? They do have the career teams. Their goal is to get students the resources they need to be successful for the face of the university and for their own jobs. They have the most students, right? For example, ASUWP Cary, the business school, was one of our first clients, and they have tens of thousands of students just within the business school. Whole school has 100,000 students.
Mhm.
So when you work with one university, especially when they have these classes, et cetera, they can implement and help you reach way more students a lot faster because they're also incentivized to do so. And so we essentially charge annual subscriptions to universities in different levels. We already have over 10,000 videos and built in learning tools inside of our platform that are at like a low cost subscription, I would say, where they can create assignments and select different videos and prompts and combine it all and send it out to the students to have them complete it. And they get all the reporting and analytics. So that's already built in, and that can be done and up and running in like a day with any kind of educational program. But most of our clients are interested in the alumni side, which doesn't, no one else is doing this that I've come across in the last few years, which is we will actually hire a current student of the university. We'll put them through our student internship content training program, and they will actually go out, source in partnership with Advize and the school to create alumni content, interviewing their own alumni, and essentially create 300 to 600 videos of their own alum with their own branded page and their own content. So then the students could actually learn from alumni. The alumni can give back in less than 30 minutes of their time, or about 30 minutes of their time from the comfort of their home. And we can capture insights and totally take that off the plate of the already really busy career and alumni professionals at these schools who can use the videos for years to come for students several years back to back, or even for marketing purposes.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow, it's almost like I didn't wanna say this, it's like you're doing a job for them, but what you're doing, I'm saying the universities, but what you're doing actually is just really enhancing what they had to offer. I wouldn't think there'd be any university out there that would do this because all their students, like you say, need this. And it does look better on them when you can go from student to career, right, in a straight path. And then this alumni thing is brilliant because if you involve the alumni and they're like, oh, they value my opinion. I might give more money this year. Who knows? But I can see the nice, I guess the nice give back and also prompting for these alumni. That's fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it sounds like you've run into some good positive things. What's been tough? What's been your speed bump so far?
Yeah. I would say the biggest speed bump is, so this year alone, in 6 months or so, I had about 150 sales calls with universities, career centers, alumni folks. And I think the hardest part is every single conversation, every single call, they say how great this is and how much they love it. But this space in general does not come with deep pockets that are expanding. It's coming with limited or shrinking pockets in a forever evolving, changing, tough space, which is the higher education space in America right now. So it's not that it's weird to be having success but it not going at the pace that it would be if it was probably a different market. And universities work in annual sales cycles. So you work for these enterprise size deals, and an enterprise size deal at a tech company is like could be $500,000. And we are very, very far away from any sort of deal with like that. Like most schools aren't getting a budget that big for themselves to even pay for their own team. So that is what has been tough is the amount of work it takes to get over the line and the size of the deal and just like the market in general, which is why we're also looking to expand our products to companies
Mhm.
in the recruitment space and also advertising space on our platform.
Yeah.
Now that we have growing schools and student eyeballs, and we're planning to well, we're going live with it now and anticipating that to help us with some monthly revenue to help sustain as we slowly consistently grow these university partnerships.
Yeah, that makes so much sense for these larger companies that are hiring 5,000 people in this new area where they need, white collar, blue collar, they need everybody, but to have those readily available videos so people know what they're getting. They think they want to be this kind of engineer, maybe, and it's like, no, actually, this sounds better according to what this guy is saying on the video. And that would be much better time and money, wasting your time in a career and then having to switch or attrition, I would think, for those companies falling out because it's like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I think that's great.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that happens a lot, right? Where, my experience before business school was in the recruitment and talent industry. So I saw all this firsthand. I was a sales trainer, so I trained hundreds of recruiters how to be successful headhunters and recruiters. And then, I've hired a lot of people for my own teams and things like that. And nothing is more costly than hiring the wrong person, you
There's
know?
the tagline. That's the tagline right there.
It is what it is. So if we can help save even like several hours a week for a couple of recruiters, HR people, and then also get exposure to maybe these companies. Going back to my earlier point, students, at least at the undergraduate level, are thinking Google, Nike, Microsoft, but there are plenty amazing jobs and opportunities out there from people that they have never heard of. So we would love to crack that code in the classroom when a student says, "Oh, I really love this person at Microsoft." And we're like, how about this recommendation from the sponsored company of this person in this role who's actually they're going to pay you more, or you don't have to move away, but actually it's just not as flashy of a company.
Right.
So that I think if we uncrack that, then we'll be able to open some big doors.
Yeah, and give those companies exposure. We have some
Mhm.
I mean, I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee, but we have some amazing Japanese, like, I think they're machine parts, and it's huge. That's what I'm saying. It's like all of a sudden they need 5,000 people. Well, how
Probably
did they
like
go?
Komatsu.
No, it's not that. I can't think. I was trying to think of the name when we were talking about
Mm,
it just now, but Tennessee, by the way, is got such a low amount of hireable people because we just everybody's got jobs. They got a high employment rate. So
hmm,
when a company moves here, maybe this is hint, hint, maybe you need to like focus in on Tennessee. When a company moves here, which there's a lot of incentives to move here, they don't have a huge pool of people to draw from.
right.
But maybe your platform can help them reach these other people. But in students and there's feeder schools, I'm sure, like technical schools that feed the technical businesses. I see so much where your company, your platform could really help and grow. But like you say, when you're starting out, it's tough because you don't have all the windfall of the money behind you. It's like this is you have to build up to get to that. But it's like, but the idea is so good, you know? Well,
Yeah, I mean, I've really bootstrapped it myself. So I put money in by myself and then won $20,000 in competition. So there's like, yeah, that and it's funny because a couple years ago I was like, wow, like if I could do that, I would be so proud of myself and all these things, and I am, but it ends up just not being enough. Like some of these companies who have already exited or whatever, or funded, like fully funded themselves because they're later on in their career and have just had more cash than I have, like they can just move so much faster. So we just have to kind of get through that barrier of, okay, we're already working with 10 paying universities. They're on, that's all great. We need to get to like 20 or 30, especially now with the current state of the investment market and everything like that. if we were doing this 5 or 10 years ago, we could probably raise $1 million with that much traction. But now it's like people are really holding on to their money, and you need really consistent sales, and you need to have more skin in the game. So I feel like that part of entrepreneurship is getting harder, and especially in the ed tech space, it's one of the least invested in verticals in the world because it doesn't have hockey stick growth. It's very good and very needed because education's kind of everything, or at least in my opinion. But it's not, oh, we're going to do this one thing and we're going to become, Uber, right? So it's an interesting space in that regard, but we're in it for the long haul for sure.
It is about catching on, and that hockey stick, I love that is used so many times, isn't it? Yeah, and trying to it's that oh, that circle where you have to do something to get something, have to do something, but then you need something to do that, but that won't get to you, it's that cycle of you need
Chicken and the
sales,
egg.
but you need money for sales, but the money feeds the sales, and yeah. But you're in that thing, but know that entrepreneurs, and I know you know this, all go through this, and this is like the chaos before the explosion. And maybe there will be, an angel investor or somebody who believes in education, especially in technical education. I would think that would
Yeah.
be huge. I don't even know why that would dip.
Yeah, I do think an angel investor would be an ideal investor because it would be someone who's very passionate about the space. We don't need a ton of people in like having hands in the pot, so to speak. Like if we had someone who's really in this space and passionate about it and maybe had the relationships because it's a very relationship driven business being in higher ed, I think that would be enough cash for where we want to go and as fast as we want to go. And you're totally right. And I guess even going back to your question about like what's challenging, I answered the question of what's challenging about the market and growth. But to what we're talking about now, what's challenging, I would say is the I would say the journey is an emotional and mental challenge, right? Because you're constantly becoming and making decisions and pushing for something that has never existed before. And so you're literally waking up every day. You can see I'm working with my big team in my big office. It's the amount of discipline it takes to every day be like, what am I doing right now? Like, what am I doing today that's going to do the biggest thing? And then knowing it, people always say, well, there, you have your opportunity cost, you have your student loans. Like, what if you had just gotten that job and you'd be making hundreds of thousands of dollars and instead you're not. So it's like this I think people who are going to be able to do it have to almost have this particular drive of where they feel like they are meant to do it and they also enjoy it. Otherwise, I don't know if they're going to push through all of the noise and the inner chatter because it's kind of crazy in terms of the emotional, I would say almost even spiritual journey of becoming an entrepreneur. It's a very big test of yourself.
That's right. That's right. And having to stay motivated. And what I think it is kind of like nonprofit because it is for a bit. You have to use your heart as your bank account. Your heart's really the thing that's driving you and the knowledge that this will work. And some days it doesn't work, but then you've got to have the wherewithal inside your head to get to the next day, and to keep that one foot in front of the other. And it's what do you do to stay motivated?
Yeah, when it comes to staying motivated, I think so I guess there's a couple thoughts or things I like to do that make me feel motivated, right? I think one that I've kind of had for my whole life, which is a little deep, I guess, but just thinking about like I know how much my family before me had to sacrifice or how hard they worked to get me to the opportunities I had today, right? So one of my parents grew up extremely poor. The other grew up on a farm. I know all my family heritage about them coming over here and thinking about, wow, my great grandpa at 15, like 13, 15 years old, left his entire family in Italy and came over and started a farm in the middle of the desert with a water stick, right? So
Great.
actually thinking actually thinking about that stuff and all the things like my mother did to just like make sure we were super educated, my dad as well. It just makes me feel like if I'm not doing something with all the ability and all the education I have, then it kind of feels like a waste. Like I feel a little bit responsible for that. And I also like to remember how my challenges aren't real problems. Like, I went to
Personal
South
challenges.
Africa. Yes, like, okay, my problem is maybe I'm not moving fast enough or I don't have more money, but at the end of the day, I'm an entrepreneur and I still have a house and I'm not worried about my meals. And
Getting
so
down
that
the
kind of concept helps me for sure. And then I would say in terms of the pushing forward and the entrepreneurship side and the business, even when it's getting hard, is knowing, okay, I actually have some data now. Like we actually have thousands of students who have used this. I just put up a post today of 50 conversations of 25 really powerful quotes that people are telling me about this product and what it can do. Now we have repeating customers. All of our customers have repeated from our first year or plan to repeat. So those sorts of chunks, even though I would love for them to be 1,000 times bigger today, I do like looking at the data and kind of comparing to where I have come from or what I wish I kind of like thinking about my old thoughts and what I wish I was doing or what I wish I would accomplish. And then actually just taking the time to realize I have done those things or more, even though there's a lot more to do.
Yeah, it's like a reality check. Sounds like you start with gratitude, first of all. You are in an office, well dressed, you have food, that whole thing, and you have this wonderful genetics in your background of people that raised themselves up from the ground up. I mean, that's in your blood. That's a great thing. And then to everybody should do this. I say this to all my listeners. Look at where you are now. Look at your accomplishments and celebrate. I mean, I know I didn't. For the longest time, I could always get better, always have more. You always get better. You could have an A plus instead of an A minus, whatever drives you nuts. But it's about celebrate those wins. Every win is a celebration. And it sounds like that's what you're doing to keep yourself in the game and motivated.
Yeah, absolutely. And not being alone either, right? I think having those moments by yourself, like to meditate and to visualize and kind of get your mindset right while keeping all the other health things in check really helps me. But also talking to your family, your friends, your business partner, other people who are in this. I'm in one CEO group. It's all UCLA Anderson alum. We have a coach that we meet with once a week or once a month. And I've always really appreciated those types of meetings because there's CEOs and entrepreneurs from all different levels. And we come together, we're very transparent. And to your point, I think that's one of the keys of life, which is when you realize you need to figure out how to kind of enjoy the moment and enjoy the process. Otherwise, you're going to wake up one day and realize you missed the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I have people in some of my meetings that have built $10 million annual ARR businesses from scratch who are still like, what is my purpose? I'm not good. They're like, what's the next thing? Right. So I just don't think it ever ends. It's kind of human nature. So I think the more you can accept the day by day and not be in too much of a rush to force the future and just kind of make the right decisions and move through it and enjoy it, you're actually going to have a better chance of success and also not be miserable, which is
And mental health. How about that?
important. Yeah.
That's amazing. So how do we find you? Do we send students your way? Tell me how that we can support you.
Yeah. So sending students our way is definitely one of the number one things. So, or really anyone who wants to check out the website, sign up would be at www.advisehub.com. That's advise with a Z. I also say for folks who are at the professional level, maybe you're with a university, maybe you're in HR recruiting at a company or doing marketing at a company, and any of the employer stuff sounds interesting, or you just want to keep in touch. Our LinkedIn newsletter is really great for that. We send out weekly updates highlighting some of the best advice from the people who interview with us, which of course you can also interview with us and you can find that on the website as well, or just reach out to me. And then, yeah, in the newsletter, we're doing like case studies, updates, just kind of all of our biggest news directly there.
So advisehub.com.
Mhm.
I ran into a university recruiter last night. I'm thinking, wow, I should actually see if he knows about this. He's at a big
Yeah.
university. So in that way, I mean, networking can be natural for some people. For me, it's like a natural thing. It's like, oh, I've just met somebody. I bet they could use this. Who knows? But just growing organically, and being on this podcast, I hope that you will share it and let people hear it because it's a great way for them to hear what you're doing. which is really,
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I mean, this is kind of why I started up the podcast journey not too long ago, because I think that's one of, again, another challenge is this is your life and you're living it and you're having like all these stories and all these wins, but no one knows about it. Like I don't want to say nobody, but it's really hard to break out without a massive marketing budget. It's like,
yeah.
what can you do to reach more people at one time? Otherwise, it's just me talking to people one on one, which only gets you so far,
Oh my
you know?
gosh, and exhausting. I've been in sales most of my life, I know.
Oh, there you go.
So, Emily, thank you so much for being on the Upshift with us today, and we wish you all the best. I have no doubt, especially with your genetics and your great attitude, this will be something that we will see bigger and better in the future.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And I'm really excited. And thanks for having me on the show.
All right. Bye. Thanks to Emily for being on our podcast today, The Upshift. She's really helping students out there and universities get students to the right career. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. And thank you, listeners, for listening to me, Angel Howard, your host on The Upshift. I'd love to get to know you better. Send me an email at angel@angelhoward.co. Visit me on the internet at angelhoward.co. It tells you all the things I'm doing. There's retreats coming up. We got a new book coming out. So stay in touch. Stay in touch. Join the email list. And that's on the website also. I'm also for hire. Book me to speak at your next gig. Just let me know. There's a place that you can inquire about that on my website, angelhoward.co. And until next time,